Before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about a free 3-act worksheet to help you structure your story. Whether you're a plotter or a pantser, a novelist, or short fiction writer, this 3-act worksheet will help you navigate your material and even begin each new story with a better plan. Download yours at nancypanuccio.com/act. Stop getting stuck in the middle of your draft. Go grab this free worksheet, nancypanuccio.com/act. Overwhelm is not a sign that your story is a failure. It's not a sign that you don't have what it takes to write it. It's actually a sign of expansion. The story is stretching. Your understanding is deepening. The draft is getting more complex, not because you're doing something wrong, but because this is exactly how writing works. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and book coach. Each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let's begin. Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Writer Unleashed. Today, we're talking about a feeling that hits every writer at some point, usually multiple times. That moment when you look at your work in progress and think, this is getting away from me. I don't even know what this is about anymore. You know the feeling. Your material is sprawling. You've got plot threads going in 6 different directions. You're not sure what your story is actually about anymore. And you're starting to wonder if you should just trunk this thing and start something new. Here's what I want you to know. This happens to every single writer at some point in the drafting process. And today, I'm going to show you exactly why your story feels overwhelming, what to do about it, and how to get your footing back without abandoning your story. So let's start with some reality. Stories are complicated. Even quiet, intimate stories require you to track relationships, cause and effect, emotional shifts, pacing, inner and outer stakes. You're carrying the entire world of the book in your mind. No wonder it feels heavy and overwhelming. But overwhelm shows up at very predictable points. Point number 1 is the murky middle. You're too far in to see the clean promise you started with, but not far enough to see the shape clearly. You're in this foggy state of the draft. It's so overwhelming. There's so much material. And that's where doubt starts to multiply. Point number 2 is when there's too many variables at once. There are too many plot threads, emotional arcs, secondary characters, backstory you haven't placed yet, scenes you know need to happen, but you're not sure where, scenes you love, but suspect might not belong. And all of this lives in your head, and that short circuits your creativity. It shuts down that part of your brain that allows you to unleash the story in a way that feels free and focused. And point number 3, you're trying to solve the whole book in one move. This is the biggest trap. You're trying to fix a 300-page ecosystem in one edit session. It's like dumping every closet, drawer, and cupboard onto your living room floor and expecting to organize the whole house at once. Instant chaos, instant panic. Writers do the same thing when they sit down to revise without a plan. without a clear focus of where their story is going. And point number 4, the core problem isn't clear yet. I don't mean the theme or the premise. I mean the problem your protagonist keeps bumping into, the thing that escalates, the thing that the story is really about beyond the plot. If that's unclear, everything else becomes fuzzy. And once things get fuzzy, writers assume they picked the wrong story or they don't have the skills yet. But the problem is almost always simpler. You just can't see the foundation yet. So, what is overwhelm actually telling you? Here's the part where you can breathe. Overwhelm is not a sign that your story is a failure. It's not a sign that you don't have what it takes to write it. It's actually a sign of expansion. The story is stretching. Your understanding is deepening. The draft is getting more complex, not because you're doing something wrong, but because this is exactly how writing works. The overwhelm is an invitation to simplify your approach, to probe what's already on the page. So here are 4 ways to work through overwhelm. Number 1, shrink the problem. When we're overwhelmed, the instinct is to zoom out and look at the book as a whole. Don't do that. That's the fastest way to panic. Instead, zoom in. Identify the knot, not the whole ball of yarn. Ask what part of the story feels tangled right now. It might be my protagonist wants 2 different things in this chapter. It might be my midpoint doesn't escalate the conflict or change my main character's relationship to or understanding of his or her problem. It could be, I don't know why this side character exists, or this chapter has no purpose. What is it doing here? It's not being useful in the story. Once you have that knot isolated, and there may be many knots, but you do one at a time, you can actually do something about it. Okay. Number 2, come back to your protagonist. Your protagonist is your compass. So if you're stuck, confused, or overwhelmed, ask, what is my protagonist struggling with right now? Not theoretically, not in Act 3, not in Act 1, not in the grand scheme of life, right now in the scene that you're looking at. What's the pressure point? What decision is he or she avoiding? Where is your protagonist emotionally stuck? What's the threat? What's the desire? When you anchor back to your protagonist's struggle, scenes start lining up again. You know where they would logically go next. You know what they would do or avoid. You know what tension should be present. So try this. Take your protagonist out of the plot for a moment and see them as a human having a bad week. What's the truth they're not ready to face yet? That's usually where your next scene lives. Okay, number 3, find your next stable foothold. Writers often think, I need to know everything before I can keep going. You don't. You need one foothold, one scene, one beat, one emotional shift. That's it. The next beat becomes the next beat, becomes the next beat. Books are built in increments, not master plans. For example, your next foothold might be, my character needs to confront her sister, but she's avoiding it. Or the lie he believes is about to crack. Or she's about to make a decision out of fear, not strength. Any of these become a foothold. A foothold becomes a scene becomes movement, and movement dissolves overwhelm. Okay, on to number 4. Stop trying to write the book you think you're supposed to be writing. Writers often carry an idealized version of their story. Perfect tone, perfect tension, perfect pacing, perfect narrative voice. That version is fantasy. The actual story is evolving. every draft reshapes it. When you cling to this perfect version, this idealized vision of what you think your story should be, the real draft feels like a disappointment. You freeze, you feel behind, you feel unworthy of the project. But here's the truth. Your book becomes itself through the writing, not through white knuckling it into what you think the story should be, like what would sell, what an agent would like, what your beta readers would like. Let the real draft guide you. Let it wander. Let it surprise you. Your job isn't just to write the book you imagined. It's to write the book that's unfolding. When you release the pressure to match the imaginary, idealized version, the overwhelm loosens. So when you shrink the problem, return to your protagonist, take the next step and stop chasing perfection, here's what happens. Scenes start making sense again. Ideas return. The emotional arc becomes more clear. Your confidence rises and the book starts to feel possible. Momentum comes back and the fear and anxiety quiets down. And best of all, you stop abandoning drafts at 40% and starting new ones only to go through that cycle again. So to wrap this up, overwhelm doesn't mean your story is too big. It means you're in the thick of the work. This is where you grow. So number one, shrink the problem. Focus on one thing at a time. Number two, come back to your protagonist. Number three, take the next foothold. Number four, release this idealized fantasy version of perfection. It doesn't exist. Your story isn't overwhelming because it's impossible. It's overwhelming because it matters to you. And that's a good sign. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to see the next foothold, the next right thing. Now, take a breath. Do one thing at a time. Take one moment at a time. When you slow down, you quiet the overwhelm. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you know any writers who need some support in their writing, please share this episode or the Writer Unleashed podcast in general. And if you love what you're listening to, subscribe on your favorite listening platform. And if you're listening on Apple, please leave me a review. Reading how this podcast impacts your writing truly lights me up and helps me create topics for the show. Till next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.